6 Habits We See on Self-Tapes. Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife and best friend, Brooke. And this one's for you, Fred. Alright, I'm not actually going to play the guitar. He's just been bugging me for a while to incorporate the guitar in some way in one of these videos. So that one was for you, Fred. Jump cut. And now on to our topic. 6 habits we see on self-tapes. When you tape actors for auditions for over 12 years, like Brooke and myself, well, you tend to see it all. And while we'll never be in a position to share the secret to acting, we can share some habits that are pretty common with actors. Side note, if anyone is selling you classes or workshops and purports to know the secret to acting or to guarantee future bookings, well, I have some snake oil I'd like to sell you, as well as a timeshare in Boca. Now, a lot of these habits we're going to talk about, displayed only once, won't be an issue. But if they start to happen every single time an actor self-tapes or gets a callback or even ends up on set, well, then it can become an issue. So let's get to the list. Number 1, blinking. As an actor, you need to be more aware of your own physiology than the average human. So if you blink a lot in every audition, this is something you need to become aware of so that you can mitigate it. What? I'm doing it right now? Because you don't want to get to that callback, or worse yet, get on set and have the director say, "Hey, Matt, you're doing great. Just don't blink as much." And you're going, I didn't know I was blinking. That's going to put you in your head, and the next take, you're going to be thinking only about the blinking, and it's probably going to be a busted take. And this is why classes are so important, because among other things, you'll become aware of your tics and tells, and hopefully your trusted teacher will be able to help you find a solution. And speaking of, the solution to excessive blinking is really dependent on the cause itself. If the air is just too dry or you're dehydrated, well then eye drops and plenty of water can help with that. If it's an extreme light sensitivity, well, you might be in the wrong vocation. Our whole job involves finding your light and staying in it. So if you're overly sensitive to light, there's really no solution that I'm aware of, because only David Caruso was cool enough to wear sunglasses as much as he did. If it's a psychological issue, well, then it will take some time. Most actors will excessively blink when they stutter over a word, or they can't remember the next line in their dialogue, or they're just generally not connected to the material. This is exacerbated by anxiety or the fear of getting it wrong. So work on your mental game to stop placing so much pressure on yourself. And incidentally, Brooke and I have found that improv helps a lot when you do improv a lot. It's amazing for reducing anxiety and fear and boosting confidence, especially if something goes wrong during the performance. Number 2, physicality. Too much or too little. Some actors may have no training, and so when they get in front of a camera, they don't know what to do, so they have a lot of unfocused physical energy. This can be very distracting, especially if the taping requirements state that they want it shot in sort of this medium close-up. And worse, if you're shooting on a phone like I am, then every little movement that you make forward, backward, left, and right gets amplified, making this habit look even worse. Again, getting an acting class will help you discover how to ground yourself in your performance. And the result is that your physicality will become more intentional, focused, and authentic to the characters you're creating. On the flip side, some actors have been in class a little while and they've learned to get rid of their physicality, but now they're stuck in the other extreme of never moving. And it's awkward. You might have had an acting teacher who smartly took you to the opposite extreme, but their ultimate goal was to let you come a little bit back to the middle where your physicality becomes natural and more relaxed. So if you're in that full extreme where you're not moving at all, well, you need to quickly get through that phase or maybe press pause on the auditions. Because with zero motion, you look frozen, scared, and just generally unnatural. So you need to loosen up a bit. Sitting can help make you look and feel more relaxed, if it's appropriate for the scene. If not, if you need to stand, well, then maybe having a table in front of you to rest your hands on, or just resting your weight on one hip can help. Or you can use the paperclip trick. And what's that? Well, it's actually a small miracle. By just holding a paperclip or something else very small and unobtrusive in one hand, it will distract your brain in such a way that all of a sudden your physicality will just look and feel more natural. Try it. Number 3, sighing. I actually had an acting teacher in college say, never sigh as an actor because you lose energy. And at the time, I just took his word as gospel because he was the teacher. But then several years later, when I started getting a little more natural in my acting, I started to think, well, that's a silly generalization to say you should never sigh because that's an authentic thing that humans do. It's very natural. But after getting even more insight, i.e. taping actors for a dozen years, I now realize the spirit of this note. Because it is true that sighing is natural, but if an actor is doing it out of fear, anxiety, looking for the next line, or if it's just a tell that they are not connected to the character, that's when it becomes a problem. And it starts out maybe as a sigh at the beginning of a sentence, or a huff at the end of a sentence. Either way, these are habits. They are not instinctual human behavior that should be a part of your character necessarily. Not if they're in every single character that you do. That has become an actual habit that needs to be understood and then broken so that, again, once you're on set, if a director says, hey, Matt, can you stop doing that little breath at the beginning of the sentence? Or can you stop sighing so much in between your thoughts? You'll know what they're talking about. And so a good way to get in control of this behavior is during your acting class that you're currently in, right? Challenge yourself to never sigh ever in any of your performances. And then once you're able to successfully do that, then start to give yourself the freedom to let a sigh come out here or there if it feels natural. Number 4, filler language. Look, some actors will add syllables or full words of dialogue to the beginning or ends of sentences as a nervous habit. If you rewind the tape, I did it at the very beginning of this section. I added just the little word look, and it was actually so short that really there was no O's in the center. It was just LK, look. And some people will add I mean or you know as a way to sort of bridge the gap to the next line of dialogue in their brain. Again, if a casting director sees your self-tape and only sees you do this once in one self-tape, not a big deal, not a deal breaker. They won't even notice it. But if they request you 3 times in a month and all throughout those self-tapes, all 3 of them, you're doing this, you're adding this filler language that's not in the script, they will start to pick up on the fact that you're a nervous actor who either just didn't prepare enough or just doesn't feel comfortable with the material. So you need to become aware of this tic if you have it and get rid of it. Because again, if you're on set and the director is asking you to stop adding the filler words, stick to the script. Maybe it's an Aaron Sorkin production. Or the boom operator is wondering what that extra little sound is at the beginning of your line. You're saying, look, and they're wondering if it's you or coming from somewhere else in the scene. Or the script supervisor is coming up to you after each take saying, Matthew, it's not I mean, it's just the line. So if you can drop the I mean, if you can drop the you know, if you can drop that little look that you're doing at the beginning. Let's say the line starts out with listen, and you're saying, look, listen. That's really weird. And I've seen it happen. Number 5, odd eye contact. Some actors choose not to use us when we're the reader as the eye line in the scene. Maybe it's because I'm the wrong sex for the character that I'm portraying as the reader. Maybe it's just their own nervousness, or maybe it's because they had a bad experience at home using their boyfriend or their girlfriend or their spouse as the reader. And they've just developed a habit of not looking at the human being in the room because they're not a good actor. Some actors look in the direction of me when I'm the reader, but they're not actually looking really at my eyes. They're not connecting to me. And that can get weird over time. Now, as long as you're still connecting somehow to the character, this won't be a deal breaker. But if you have a good actor as your reader, why not connect with them? Some actors have wandering eyes. And what I mean by that is maybe they're trying to connect with me, but it just makes them a little nervous, so they keep darting their eyes away. Or maybe they're nervous and they accidentally spike the camera throughout the scene. Or maybe they just have trouble creating the imaginary visual of a second character who's supposed to be maybe on the other side of the lens. And so as they try to create this character, it's just not looking like it's another person. And this stuff just takes practice. As much as we want this to be a pure art form, acting on camera can be extremely technical. And unfortunately, a lot of acting teachers don't cover this type of stuff in their classes. So we're left to figure this out on our own in our self-tape studios at home, or over time when we're going to a taping service, or worse yet, slowly over time as we get on set. Number 6, overall lack of physical awareness. This last topic is sort of a catch-all. We see various behaviors from actors that can be generalized as a lack of awareness with their own body or how their body connects to the space around them. For instance, let's say Brooke is my reader right now and she positions herself really close to the camera. Some actors will sort of unconsciously lean around the camera as if they're trying to get the camera out of the way, or maybe distance themselves from that lens so that Brooke's eyes aren't so close to the camera lens. But that's wrong. The lens is your best friend. You want to stay right where you are and connect to those eyes when they're that close to the lens. Trust me, it works to your advantage. Some actors will just physically move themselves further to the side so that they have a more direct eye line to the reader. And again, there's a mark on the floor for a reason. That's where you're supposed to stand. If you go too far, at least in our space, then you're getting further away from the boom mic overhead, and your audio is not going to sound as good. And speaking of microphones, a lot of actors really have no idea what their relationship is to a microphone. I once had an actor who had been coming to get taped for years suddenly look up and say, "Oh, you got a boom mic." And I said, "Yeah, it's been there since day one." The other problem that some actors have when it comes to microphones and sound is that they don't understand how much noise they're making. Let's say they're sitting at a table and they start making some sort of noise by rubbing their arms across the table, and on playback you're thinking, what is that sound? Oh, that was your cufflinks from your suit jacket rubbing across the table. Or maybe they're standing, but they're holding their script and they're crinkling their pages throughout the entire audition. And they're completely unaware of these noises that they're making. I hear a lot of actors with squeaky shoes that every time they shift their weight, squeak, 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 squeak. And if they're walking into the scene or walking out of the scene, it's even worse. And they seem completely unaware of their squeaky shoes. So you must gain awareness not only of your own body, but how your body connects to the space around you and your relationship to that space and to that camera and to that microphone. There's no quick fix to this last point, unfortunately. However, if you've never taken a movement class or a dance class or a yoga class, stop everything and sign up for one right now. Because as an actor, you must know your body. So these are just some of the trends, 6 of them to be exact, that we've seen at Get Taped after over 12 years of taping actors. So what did I miss? Drop a question or a comment below and let us know. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.